In front of me, I have this beautiful 25 grams of gold and 3 ounces of silver. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the correlation between not just value, but volume of gold and silver. You see, in some of my past videos, in fact, one very recently where I spoke with a coin dealer, he talked about how many of his stackers, the people that come into his shop and start stacking, start with silver. But as their stack gets very big and very heavy, they start switching to gold just because of the value versus the volume of gold and silver. Now you might be wondering why I have 3 ounces of silver and 25 grams of gold. How does that correlate? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to take this beautiful gold bar right here. This is a 25 gram, well, it's actually part of a 50 gram that says only half of it. You see how beautiful this is? Man, gold is a gorgeous metal. We're going to go ahead and break this apart. Now, these gold bars are not in my perma stack. I talk very many times on this channel about how I have a permanent stack and a light stack, which I use for barter and trades, buying and selling, so on and so forth. So these bars are not in my perma stack, and we're going to break them apart because when I use them, I'm going to use them in 1 gram form. So you notice how easily I was able to bend those and it broke apart, and that's because they already have these segments right here that makes it very easy to do so. And then I can do this. Just bend it a couple of times because gold is incredibly malleable, very easy to bend and break apart when it's sorted like this. It's not easy to break apart because it's so malleable, but because they have these lines already cut, you can see right there, it makes it easy for these to be broken apart. But anyway, we have this 1 gram gold bar that is roughly equal to the value of these 3 rounds, and look at the size difference. So like I said, we're going to talk about that a little bit today and the volume and the correlation. I'm going to show you some more examples, talk about the gold to silver ratio. So let's do it, but do me a favor, don't forget to subscribe, help the channel continue to grow. I definitely appreciate it. There is a subscribe button down below. Just make sure you are already. And also don't forget that my channel is sponsored by Bullion. And if you have never bought from them before, if you're a new customer, you can actually get a small order of gold or silver with no premium at all, just for spot from their website at sdbullion.com/new. I'll put a link down below. And thank you to Bullion for sponsoring the channel. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, there's a reason we have 25 grams here. It's because it's a very small amount of gold. This is less than an ounce. There's 31.13 grams of gold per ounce of gold. And keep in mind, gold and silver are traded on troy ounces, 31.13 grams per 1 troy ounce of gold or silver. So this 1 gram bar is equal roughly to 3 troy ounces of silver. To get to the value of this 25 grams, it doesn't look like a big difference now, but it's actually pretty mind-blowing. Let me show you what it actually takes. So not only do we need these 3 ounces, but we need a 1/4 ounce, okay, to get to our 25 grams of gold. We also need around 3 90% silver quarters, 75 cents face value, roughly, to get to 3 ounces of gold. Or I'm sorry, 25 grams of gold, my apologies. And we also need this huge kilo bar as well. But wait for it, there's more. We need 2 huge kilo bars plus 4 ounces, so 32, 64, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the actual ratio is about 68.5. So actually we only need 1/4 because this is 32.15, so 64.3, 64.5-ish, or right here 68.5 if you include, I'm sorry, the 1 ounce of a rounds. So a massive difference, and let me just show you just kind of for scale here. So we're going to take these 25 grams and just stack them on top of one of these kilos. Look at the difference here. It's like paper going on top of, you know, a brick. And then if we'll take these off and try not to scratch these up, but I also want to show you what's going on here. We turn this sideways and look at the thickness difference between this kilo of silver and these 20 grams of gold right here. The thickness would be the same with the other 5, you get it. This is significant. This is hefty. This is heavy. It takes a lot of volume. It takes a lot of weight to get to the same value of this right here that you can just simply put into your pocket and walk away with it. And I think that is what the dealer that I was speaking to the other day meant when he said that a lot of people start with silver, but as their stacks get really heavy, they start switching to gold, not just to save room, but to save weight as well. Okay, so what do we then actually need this for? Like, why do we even need gold and silver? Well, there's a couple of reasons that a lot of people stack gold and silver. And I'm not going to tell you what you should do or if you should stack it at all, but let's go into two scenarios. One type of stacker holds it as a hedge against inflation. They believe that this US dollar right here is continuing to lose value, and they're not wrong, by the way. The price of everything is sky high from where it was just 4 years ago. I mean, the price of eggs up 50%, meat up over 50%, housing prices are through the roof. You get less with this dollar today than you did 4 years ago, but not just by a little bit, by a lot, by like, this is all it's worth now, right? So that is why a lot of people stack gold and silver. And while many people look at silver and say, listen, it really hasn't looked like a good hedge against inflation in the few years, remember that just 7 years ago, silver was trading for like 14 or 15. So it's almost doubled in that time. That's really not actually that bad. And it actually has, if you think about it, kind of kept up with inflation in the last 7 years. Now, of course, if you bought it in 2011, you've lost money. If you bought it in 1980, you've lost money. But recently, it's done a very good job, and so has gold. I mean, gold is at an all-time record high. Right now, as I record this video, gold is sitting at $2,527 per ounce. So gold has also done a very good job of doing that and keeping up with inflation. So every time I see someone say that silver hasn't kept up with inflation, I mean, I guess it really depends on when you bought it. If you bought it, at the beginning of the silver squeeze in February of 2022 or 2021, no, it hasn't done a good job of keeping up with inflation, not at all. But if you bought it before all this stuff actually started happening, if you bought it preemptively, back in 17, 18 or whatever, before this all started happening, it's really actually done quite a good job. It's just a very long-term hold. Like, you don't buy silver today and expect it to be double tomorrow. You don't buy it, and expect it to be double in 6 months. Silver is a long-term hold that's done a very good job of holding its value. This silver quarter in 1964 could buy you about a gallon of gas. It can do the same thing today. In fact, it can buy you more than a gallon of gas today. It's actually increased in its value of barter or trade since 1964 when it was minted. Well, maybe not this one. This one was minted in 1945, but you get the idea. It's actually done quite a good job unless you look at it in a very small window. I know my hands are black here, but if you look at it in a very small window, it looks horrible, but it's actually done a really good job. But there is another sector of people that stack for a totally different reason, and that is as prepping. Well, I guess I can't actually say totally because they're preparing for something as well, just on a much larger doomsday-ish scale, okay? And those are the people that probably want to have more gold than silver because, and I'm not a doomsday prepper. I do prep. Don't think that I'm some sort of idiot, city slicker that doesn't, I have my Freedom Seed, I have plenty of Freedom Seed dispensers. I have plenty of reserve food and water. I have basic medical skills, medical supplies, land, so on and so forth. I'm not stupid, okay? But I don't have a bunker, right? And I don't have 10 years worth of food inside the bunker. And, I don't have a barbed wire fence around my house. And I don't have a Faraday cage so that they can't melt my brain and read my thoughts, right? I'm not that extreme. But I do think about, like, let's say what the preppers say is going to happens. All right, let's just imagine a scenario where they're right. And not only do we have a currency collapse, but we have a societal collapse. People are fighting in the streets, killing each other over food and water. And gold and silver in that scenario, eventually, and keep in mind, this is a very key word, okay? Key word, eventually. When the smoke clears and things calm down, gold and silver will be important. Actually, to be honest with you, at the beginning of that scenario, what I just said, when people are fighting over food in the streets, at the beginning of that, gold and silver will be irrelevant. What will be important will be bread and milk and eggs and food and water and medical supplies and things that help you survive, because you can't eat silver, you can't eat gold, you can't eat the US dollar, which no one's going to want that at the time, but you get the idea. You can't eat those things. So a loaf of bread will be more valuable probably than this entire kilo bar, maybe even more, right? In that scenario. But eventually, we're talking, months down the road after something happens like that, eventually, when the smoke clears, when things start trying to get back to normal, when people start realizing that we can't be killing each other in the streets over food or there won't be anything left, when that happens, man, I'm trying not to scratch at my gold bars here. Gold and silver will be important, because if we look at Venezuela or Zimbabwe or other countries that went through massive hyperinflation, a currency collapse, You know what those countries went to? Well, they did go to gold and silver, but that's not the only thing they went to. Guess what they started trading in when their currency was worth nothing? This. They would accept their currency, but they would accept the US dollar. Why? Because the US dollar has value and it's the world's reserve currency and people trust it. But what if it's the dollar that fails? What if the dollar is no longer worth anything? Well, you're going to need a form of barter, a form of trade to be able to, let's say, and again, this is after the smoke clears. This is after people are calmed down and, people are able to eat and take care of themselves and they aren't having to beat each other up and steal and rob to survive. All right. This is after all the insaneness calms down, right? I understand that you can't eat gold and silver. I know this won't be important at first, but eventually when we return to some form of normalcy and people don't trust this dollar anymore, they're going to want to have something to barter with. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a tool maker and he makes a tool that you need so that you can then take that tool and produce whatever you produce that you then use for barter, right? But you need the tool and he doesn't need what you produce. Let's say you produce bread, but he has plenty of bread, so he doesn't need your food. What are you going to give him? Well, he needs something else that you can't get him, so you give him gold or silver that he can then take and trade for what he needs. That's literally how money works. If you think about it, we trade labor, right? We go to work, we trade our labor, we trade our time for this, and then we exchange this to a place that doesn't need our labor. So let's say you work for a construction company. Well, a construction company, Walmart doesn't need you to work for them. A construction company needs you to work for them. So the construction company is going to give you this so you can then go to Walmart and buy whatever you need, whether it be food or whatever. If you shop, whatever, wherever you go, you get the idea. The local grocery store doesn't need you to work for them, but they do need these dollars to pay for their employees that do work for them, who then maybe use these dollars to hire your construction company. You get the idea. And it's a very basic level. It's much more detailed than that, but that's basically on a very fundamental, elementary level. That is how a medium of exchange works. That's how our currency works. So when the dust clears, we're going to need a medium of exchange. The dollar is going to be worthless. It's going to go back to gold and silver. At least that's what I believe. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I have a crystal ball. I'm not saying that I'm perfect here. I'm not getting in front of the camera and saying, listen, guys, I am the person who knows all, and you must listen to me. I'm not that person. But we will go back to where we need a medium of exchange, and I believe that gold and silver will be it. So you're going to want to have not only gold, but fractional gold. You're not just going to want to have a lot of heavy silver. You're going to want fractional silver like these quarters. If you go to the bread maker and to get a loaf of bread, let's say you're not the bread maker. Let's say you go to the bread maker to get a loaf of bread. Well, this may be, oh boy. Oh, you guys just witnessed a crime. I just nicked my bar. That's what I've been trying to prevent this whole video, was damaging one of my bars. It's still a gram of gold though, right there when we break it off. But this ounce of silver may be too much for a loaf of bread, but maybe the quarter does. Maybe the quarter fits suit, right? So a quarter, some dimes, 90%. That's why a lot of people stack fractional silver at 90%. 1 ounce rounds, they're kind of like your $20 bills. Your quarters are like your $5 bills. Your halves like your $10 bills. Your dimes like your $1 bills. You get the idea. That it's not going to work that way, but that kind of gives you an idea in your head. So that's the second sect of people, those are the end of worlders. But as I said, the doomsdayer scenarios, but as I said, when we get to that point, gold and silver will not be important, not anywhere close at the beginning. So, but it is still going to be important. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. So let me know what you think about why do you stack silver and gold? I want to know. And what do you think? Would you rather have gold than silver in this current market of 2,500 gold and not even $30 an ounce silver? Let me know. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.